You have definitely seen this picture. A monkey slowly standing up, becoming a modern human.
It teaches us that evolution was a neat, straight line. But this drawing is a massive scientific lie. Real evolution is a chaotic, branching tree. Around 300,000 years ago, we were just one random branch among many. At that time, at least 6 distinct species of humans walked this planet simultaneously, all fighting to survive. The most formidable were the Neanderthals in Europe. Built like tanks, they were far stronger than us. In a one-on-one fight, our ancestors would get crushed instantly. So, how did our skinny branch survive while they died out? Neanderthals were apex predators with a brutal hunting style. They didn't throw spears. They charged massive beasts in close combat. This caused constant bone fractures. To maintain their massive muscle mass in the Ice Age, they needed huge amounts of calories every day. Despite their strength, they were constantly on the brink of starvation. Then Homo Sapiens arrived in Europe. We were physically weaker, but our brains were wired differently. We invented projectile weapons to kill prey from a safe distance. While Neanderthals risked their lives for a meal, we hunted like a calculated game. Our ultimate secret weapon was cooperation. If Neanderthals failed to hunt, they starved in isolation. If we lacked food, neighboring groups shared with us through complex alliances and trade. We planned, shared ideas, and gathered in massive numbers. We probably never slaughtered them in massive cinematic battles. We were simply superior competitors who vacuumed up their food sources. This social advantage changed everything. Wherever our species arrived, other human branches began to vanish. We pushed them into the most barren, freezing territories. Eventually, they slowly died out in the cold, while our species multiplied exponentially. We didn't just outsurvive our ancient cousins. We replaced them in a brutal, silent biological conquest. In the end, all other species went extinct, leaving us as the last survivors. Even today, your DNA carries the genetic scars of this ancient conflict. Remember, evolution is not a story of peaceful progress. It is a brutal game of elimination, and it is an absolute miracle that you are here today.
To understand why our branch survived, we must look inside the skull. The Neanderthal brain was actually larger than ours, but it was optimized for vision and movement in the dark. Our brain, however, underwent a radical genetic mutation known as the cognitive revolution. This single evolutionary leap allowed Homo sapiens to do something no other creature on Earth could do: talk about things that do not exist. Neanderthals could communicate effectively, but their language was strictly literal. A Neanderthal could tell his group, "Look, there's a lion near the river." This is basic survival communication, and many animals, like chimpanzees or vervet monkeys, can do it too. But a Homo sapiens could look at the same river and say, "The lion is the guardian spirit of our tribe, and if we sacrifice a deer to the river, the spirit will protect our hunters tomorrow." This ability to create fiction, myths, and legends was our ultimate superpower. It allowed us to establish shared beliefs. Why does a shared belief matter in a brutal war of survival? Because without fiction, you cannot cooperate in numbers larger than a natural alpha pack. In nature, chimpanzees cannot form tight groups larger than 50 individuals because they rely entirely on personal intimacy. They must know each other, groom each other, and fight each other to build trust. Neanderthals lived exactly like chimpanzees in this regard. Their social groups were small, family-based clans of 20 to 30 people. If two Neanderthal clans met in the forest, their immediate instinct was deep suspicion, hostility, and violent territorial fighting. They had no shared concepts to bind them together. Homo sapiens completely shattered this biological limit through the power of myth. Two Homo sapiens from completely different continents, who had never seen each other before, could instantly become blood brothers and fight side by side. All they needed was a shared belief in the same tribal god, the same creation story, or the same sacred animal totem. By believing in the same imaginary story, thousands of total strangers could organize themselves into a highly disciplined, unstoppable army. While a group of 30 Neanderthals fought as independent individuals, they were suddenly ambushed by a coordinated force of 500 sapiens acting as a single organism. This was not a fair fight. It was a massive tribal machine, crushing isolated family units. Our ability to gossip and create fictional hierarchies allowed us to build the very first large-scale human societies. We created rules, taboos, and networks of trust that extended far beyond our immediate sight. This cognitive explosion did not just change how we fought, it completely transformed how we managed information. We began to pass down complex survival strategies across multiple generations through storytelling, creating the earliest forms of human culture. Our ancient ancestors turned survival from a daily physical struggle into an organized generational campaign to conquer the entire planet. Armed with this revolutionary cognitive power, Homo sapiens did not stay confined to their original homeland. We broke out of Africa and began the most rapid and destructive expansion in the history of planet Earth. As our ancestors marched across continents, a terrifying pattern emerged. Everywhere Homo sapiens arrived, massive ecological changes followed immediately. We were not living in harmony with nature. We were an unprecedented ecological serial killer. When we reached Australia, most of its giant marsupials vanished. When we crossed into the Americas, mammoths, giant sloths, and saber-toothed cats disappeared completely. And when we pushed deep into the freezing territories of Europe, we brought this same devastating efficiency right to the doorstep of the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals had lived in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. Perfectly adapted to the Ice Age, they survived brutal winters and savage predators. But they were completely unprepared for a highly organized, invasive species that hunted with military precision. We didn't necessarily need to fight the Neanderthals in massive, bloody wars to defeat them. Instead, we fought an economic war of attrition. We were simply vastly superior and hyper-efficient competitors. While Neanderthals relied almost entirely on hunting dangerous large game, our ancestors exploited everything. We gathered nuts and berries, we trapped small animals like rabbits, we caught fish, and we safely hunted large beasts using coordinated traps and projectile weapons. We literally vacuumed the ecosystem dry. We stripped the forests and plains of calories that the Neanderthals desperately needed to survive. Remember, a single Neanderthal required far more energy just to keep their massive, muscular bodies warm and functioning. When the winter came and the large herds were gone, the Neanderthal clans faced a slow, agonizing starvation. Their birth rates plummeted. Their children could not survive the freezing cold without adequate fat and protein. Their immune systems weakened, making them susceptible to new diseases that our ancestors might have brought with them. We cornered them, pushing them further and further away from the prime hunting grounds, forcing them into the most barren, inhospitable edges of the continent. The end of the Neanderthals was not a single dramatic event, but a slow, fading whisper over thousands of years. As their populations shrank and fragmented, they faced a final, undeniable reality. They were trapped in a world now owned by a smarter, more cooperative species. However, before they vanished completely, something remarkable happened in the freezing darkness of Ice Age Europe. In those final desperate millennia, our two species actually met, and in some rare cases, we interbred. Today, if you have European or Asian ancestry, about 1 to 2% of your DNA comes directly from Neanderthals. They did not just disappear into the dirt. A tiny fragment of their genetic code was absorbed into our triumphant biological machine. But make no mistake, this was not a peaceful merging of two equals. It was the complete assimilation and erasure of a magnificent apex predator. By about 30,000 years ago, the very last Neanderthal took their final breath, likely somewhere in a lonely cave. After millions of years of hominid evolution, and after hundreds of thousands of years of a crowded planet featuring multiple human species, the game of survival finally had a definitive winner. Homo sapiens stood alone on top of the world. We became the undisputed masters of planet Earth. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we could tell stories, form massive alliances, and ruthlessly outcompete anything that stood in our way. Our ancestors built the modern world on the bones of those they replaced. So the next time you look in the mirror, do not just see a normal human being. See the ultimate survivor. You are the final product of an unimaginably brutal, hundreds of thousands of years long biological war. The chaotic, branching tree of human evolution has been mercilessly pruned down to a single, solitary branch. We are the last one standing. The story of human evolution is not a gentle march toward progress. It is a terrifyingly efficient campaign of total domination.